Well, hello, and welcome to the latest episode of Climate Pioneers, where we interview innovators and leaders in the sustainability movement. I'm Heather Clancy, I'm your host, and today we're going to be talking with the CSO of CRH, which is one of the world's largest construction materials companies. So it's a pretty business to business topic today. This is one of the biggest areas of impact, though, for the sustainability movement to address. And this company is doing quite a bit in terms of circular production and innovation in order to reduce its emissions. It has a big target ahead of it, 30% by 2030. Talking to me today is Eunice Heath. Now, Eunice has been with CRH since January 2023, and she joined that company after 31 years at Dow. And I just want to say how thrilled I am to have her here today with me. I'm going to introduce her in just a moment with my first question. But before I do that, I just wanted to thank you for being here live. And that means you get a chance to ask questions about 30 minutes in. So put them into the chat, get them going as soon as you want, and we'll get to them in a moment. Meanwhile, Eunice, welcome to Climate Pioneers.
Thank you so much, Heather. And it's really a pleasure and an honor to be here with you today and to be back with my GreenBiz community and family. So it's been a while. Looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, with your fam. You've
Yeah.
been there for about 18 months. And
Yep.
I first of all, okay, big change. I mean, 30 years you were at that other company. I'm curious
Right.
as to, what was it about the opportunity at CRH that compels you to go there? And then, I want you to address your sort of biggest aha moment from those first 18 months.
Yeah, well, you know what, Heather? Great journey and career at the Dow Chemical Company. It was really bittersweet for me to actually retire from Dow, and I actually thought that I would take a few months off, and CRH came calling, and it really goes back to my early days of coming into environment, health, safety, and sustainability after running different businesses for Dow for many years. And I thought about, well, what do I want my career to look like? And we all do that, right? As we build our development goals. And I knew that there was a day that I wanted to be a chief sustainability officer. So CRH was putting in place their very first ever chief sustainability officer. And so I looked into the company, and when I think about big impact and marrying my past of chemistry and material science, and when you look at what we need to do in CRH as we address decarbonization, circularity of water, and we'll get into all of that, it takes chemistry and material science. So I was marrying my past with my present, and also the ability to really fulfill a career goal and journey that I've had about being a chief sustainability officer. And, so when I think about my biggest aha coming into this role and into this great company, it was really more a reinforcement than an aha. So the reinforcement that as we all across all the value chains strive towards net zero ambition, as we all strive to be more circular, so transitioning from linear economy to circular economy, and as we all strive to address nature positive or nature based solutions within our businesses, it requires collaboration, and that's collaboration peer to peer across value chains, public private, academia, you name the collaboration is required. So it's really more of a reinforcement that there was still more work for me to do, Heather, right?
You're not allowed to
And
retire,
what a
Eunice.
great opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, I want to follow up just a little bit more on that. I didn't know that you had always wanted to. I actually hadn't asked you that question before. You had
Yeah.
held positions in government affairs,
Hmm.
mergers and acquisitions,
Yes.
environmental health and safety, of course, and sustainability. How do you feel like that multidisciplined background is helping you in
Mhm.
this role?
Well, significantly, because in this role, first off, I do take a business lens
Hmm.
to what we're striving to accomplish in terms of sustainability, action, and impact. And through that business lens, that comes from my background. So I'm an engineer by background, but I went into the commercial organization at Dow. And throughout my commercial career, it's all been around driving business strategy through growth and innovation. And that's what we have to do as we strive to enable a sustainable future for all. And so that requires us to think from a business perspective. Yes, we have global challenges. Every value chain has its challenges, but then there's also major opportunities, right? For us to drive change. And that takes understanding the key inputs that various functions have
Hmm.
to ensure that we're all aligned and that we deliver on the ambitions that we have as a company.
Hmm. And who do you report to?
So I report to our Chief Operating Officer, Randy Lake, but I would say that ultimately I report to the CEO and to the board of directors. So significant engagement with our board of directors because they are truly aligned and supportive of what we need to do, whether it's growth, innovation, investment, as well as how that lands in terms of sustainability strategy.
Hmm. And CRH is a Dublin-based company. That's your
Yes,
headquarters. 35
yes,
billion in sales last year,
yeah,
approximately, and many leadership positions in different construction markets. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
yeah. So thank you so much for that question because when I was first learning about CRH, it was absolutely amazing the sheer size of this company
Hmm.
that I had not heard of before. So we are essentially an essential partner for roads, critical utility infrastructure, homes, residential, non-residential, commercial buildings and projects, but then also outdoor living solutions. So we have a portfolio that's highly integrated. So our essential materials would be products like aggregates or cement. And then we have other technologies from our architectural business, products business, infrastructure business. And then from end to end, we have construction engineering services that we're able to work with our customers to really design from the beginning of their concept of even a campus or what that should look like. What should the footprint, what are their expectations about the footprint, the water and the infrastructure around utilities might need to look like. And so we have the ability to go end to end in terms of critical projects as we partner with our customers to make their sites safer, more circular, cleaner, better, and really improving the way that you and I, as humans and consumers, interface with the structures and the cities in which we are. So we're a very large enterprise, and just to give you another perspective, we have over 200 companies, operating companies that make up CRH. We have greater than 3,300 operating site locations, and we operate greater than 1,200 quarries around the world. So, and last but certainly not least, 78,000 employees globally. So it's a very large enterprise, but doing some really great things with regards to
Yeah.
innovation solutions for sustainable outcomes.
Yeah. And I know the built environment has quite an impact. I think it various figures, 37% of operating. Yeah. You have a 30% by 2030 across your entire value chain, all three scopes.
Yes.
How's it going? What's what kind of progress you making? Is what's going
Well,
what's
I
more
tell you,
difficult than you thought?
we've got everything going towards achieving the 30% absolute CO2 reduction target by 2030. And for CRH, sustainability is not new to our company. We've been addressing sustainability impacts for better part of 30 years. And every time as I've looked through the history, because as you said, I just joined a year and a half ago, but as I look through the history of when we set an ambition, like in 2006, we set an ambition. We exceeded that ambition and set it higher in 2012. We exceeded that ambition, set it higher in 2019. And then in a very short increment, we set it even higher for the 30% target that we have, and that was in 2023. It is an SBTI certified target and ambition. And what I would say is that the actions we're taking for decarbonization, we're making progress. So off of our 2021 baseline, we've already achieved 8% reduction versus our 2021 baseline. We've got major projects in the pipeline, support from the C-suite to the board of directors and our business leadership with regards to the investments that need to take place to modify for alternative raw materials or whatever the action needs to take place. So we're making progress, but we've got 6.5 years more here, or not quite 6.5 years, but we've got a few more years left to deliver on our expectation.
What drove the decision to really make circularity, circular economy principles, circular production principles part of this emissions reduction strategy? Like, that's really central. Why?
Yes. So for our business, about a couple of years ago, we established a sustainability framework in which would govern our actions. And the sustainability framework, so no surprise that for the built environment, water stewardship, water management, circularity, and decarbonization are really front and center. The foundations of what we drive in the natural world, so around biodiversity as well as our people and communities, is central as well. So that kind of and governance and responsible business kind of governs our actions and the strategy that we take. So circularity is central as well. The intersection of circularity and decarbonization is key actions we have to take. So for decarbonization, we have 8 levers that we're addressing to decarbonize and to deliver the ambition of 30% by 2030. And within those 8 levers, there are 3 of the levers that directly link to circularity. So they're clinker substitution. And for those that aren't aware of what clinker is, it's essentially the binder that is used within the cement production, recycled alternatives and alternative materials. And then the third one is around value chain emissions, but I'll reduction. So I'll focus more on the first 2 around clinker substitution and recycled and alternative materials. This is where addressing not only our own internal waste that then gets reprocessed in our operations, but then also we are a net taker of waste from other industries that serves as alternative fuel for our cement manufacturing, but then also as we partner with others to find bio-based options as we're addressing clinker substitution. So just to give you a data point, we consumed waste last year. We're a net consumer using 164 times more byproducts and waste from other industries than we even send to disposal ourselves. And so circularity is central from an operational point perspective, but then also developing new products. So we can talk about that, how we're turning it into new products we
Yeah.
make too.
I do want to get to that in a moment, but I want to stick with
Absolutely.
this materials reuse thing for a second. It was
Yep.
like 43.9 million metric tons of byproducts and waste that you say
Yeah.
in your report.
Yeah.
That reduced your virgin materials by 9%. So how much of it, how much of an impact did that have on emissions? Like, have you managed to make that link yet?
So we are still working on, that link. If I were to give you maybe a couple of examples, how specific examples are
Yeah.
making that
Hmm.
connection, it'll be probably a bit easier. So we have one of our companies in Ohio, the Shelley Company. They worked with Cargill on a biobinder and conducted a number of product trials in partnership with Aurora, Ohio, the city of Aurora, and the Ohio Department of Transportation to see if we could increase the amount of recycled asphalt pavement, so we call it RAP, in the asphalt as we were laying new roads. So here in the US, we are the number one road builder here in the US, asphalt builder here in the US. And so, in working on this project, they were able to increase the amount of RAP to 40%, and it also decreased the CO2 emissions by 31%. So that's just one tangible example how if we reimagine, if we rethink and redesign how we have historically created formulations and products, and we think about what's possible, and we partner and collaborate what's possible, right? So reduction significantly in CO2, and that's just one example of many.
And that binder was based on soy,
Yes,
correct?
that is a
Yeah.
soy-based binder,
Hmm.
absolutely, in partnership
Hmm.
with Cargill. So that's a,
Hmm.
that's a what we would call a demonstration project,
Yeah, I was just going to
and
ask if it had
because
been
we have to,
scaled.
we have to prove things out, right?
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So what happens next? I mean, are you planning to do more pilots? What will it take to commercialize
Absolutely,
that?
absolutely. One of the things that I've learned, Heather, in coming into this industry and learning more about, again, the business side of what makes the building materials and the building construction industry work. Here in the US, is state by state. And in some states, it's, municipality by municipality in terms of what you're able to do, how the specifications they put in place with the departments of transportation in terms of how much recycled or recovered or reclaimed material you can even use or not. And so, even though we have that pilot in Ohio, there would be a similar pilot, but maybe a little bit different in another state, in Texas, for example, or Florida is another example, here in my great state of new state of Georgia. And then when you go over to Europe, we've been working with the UK, within the UK, on net zero roads, right? So we're even proving out how you can actually get to net zero for many kilometers and miles of road, and the various collaborations and partnerships that are required to make that happen. Because for CRH, we won't have all of the capability from equipment to even technology, but we have to partner with others to make it happen
Hmm.
right in the field. So there will be more demonstration projects in order for us to scale.
Okay. Okay. You didn't really answer my question. Like, what metrics would it take? You just have to see, like, is it going to be a couple of years because you have to see how they perform? I'm just curious what the
Well,
metrics are.
yes, yes, yes. No, absolutely. I mean, there is a performance aspect too, right?
Okay.
So we've demonstrated in the Shelley example of 30% reduction, but it's performance.
Yeah.
Then we have to scale
Got it.
and prove out that this is possible across multiple different territories.
Okay. So stick with it. I want to go to a customer example because this was
Okay,
also in your report. You
sure.
talked about how you worked with Google to
Hmm.
figure out how to use some of these materials for a special kind of component that they needed for laying
Hmm.
cable. Could you tell us a little bit
Right.
more about that example?
Right. So with that example, as with all major companies, they have their ambitions, their targets as well to become more circular, lower carbon, net zero. And so as we worked with Google, this was actually our old castle infrastructure business. That particular business has infrastructure solutions that are not only for water treatment or water management, but then also for fiber optic communications cables. So they have certain technology that is suitable for that application. So in partnership with Google, Oldcastle worked with them to develop this new brand called Duralite. And in working with them, they were looking for a lightweight solution. They were also looking for a solution possibly that utilizes more recycled materials. So this is a lightweight fiber optic cable that incorporates actually reclaimed and recycled plastics that would have otherwise been disposed of, but turning it into a new product that was actually installed and used in the field. So now we have a fiber optic cable installation solution that the likes of Google, as they continue to grow and expand and lay, new cables, that is possible made out of recycled plastic.
So can other companies use that, buy that same part or product?
So for the Duralite, that is a product that we made in partnership with Google. What I would say is that our solutions team stands ready to work with other companies that are
Mm-hmm.
looking for similar types of solutions as we, are addressing critical infrastructure
Mm-hmm.
around optic cables, and for communications.
So is the CRH sales team kind of primed to go out and find opportunities like this, right? So I don't know how bespoke that example is, but was that because Google came to you, or were some of your teams like, hey, some of these companies that have high aspirations, maybe they could help us with some of what we want to do?
Yeah, so the Google example is one where they came to us and we looked across our end-to-end solutions as to what's possible in order to determine a new technology that we could bring to bear. Our commercial team is in kind of two areas. So we have our commercial teams that are aligned directly to our business units. And then we also have a group of commercial leaders that are aligned to our solutions portfolio. So we have two solutions leaders, one here in Americas, Liz Haggerty, and then Lenora Moore over in Europe. And so they have a number of leaders that focus on thinking end to end, outside the box, and going directly to customers like a Google or Amazon, or an Intel, as they think about, holistically, what needs to be done in terms of new innovations, as well as, new sustainable solutions to address the ambitions the companies have.
Yeah. We're going to come to the audience in about 5 minutes. I just want to call
Okay,
that out so they can get their
sure.
questions coming in.
All right.
But I have to follow up on this one moment, and then to go to a different topic, water.
Okay.
Does this like create new revenue opportunities for us? Like, so let's go back to that original example. So about 44 million metric tons of byproducts and waste. Um, is that a number that you hope to increase over time, that you will start buying even more and replacing even more materials with virgin materials? Is there like an actual goal there?
Yeah, so our actual goal right now, as we're addressing circularity, is the goal is to ensure that our operations have waste recycling management plans at their sites, right? So we want to make sure that we are not sending, waste to landfill, that we're bringing it back into our own operations, and then also that we are a net taker from other industries. And so as we bring in new, waste products from other industries, that is informing and providing as a raw material stream for products that we've already developed that then we can turn into new products, as I mentioned to you earlier with the Google example. Now, when we look at the water side, well, let me just first say this before I get to water. We look at the three global challenges that underpin our strategy around water circularity and decarbonization. Yes, they are challenges, but there are also significant opportunities for us to drive new innovation, to access new innovation, and also to drive growth. And so, definitely as well, right? Revenue is getting to the bottom line. And for water management solutions, this is really also a very exciting part of our strategy. So, we all know that water is essential to human life, it's essential to the economies. But what's been very interesting is I've further learned more about our water business. Just a couple of stats. So, 35% of global treated water, drinking water is lost annually. I mean, that's a big number. And the cost of leakage here in the US is like $7.6 billion. I mean, that's a lot of money. And this is good drinking water that's lost. So our focus as we're addressing water management solutions, we have, of course, an internal operational focus, right? But the important part is through our infrastructure solutions business as we're addressing stormwater management, flood management solutions, as we're supporting the needs for more availability, cleaner water, and the quality of the water and the efficiency of the use of water. Those are the kind of solutions that we bring to market. So that's where we are driving innovation. That's where we're driving partnerships and partnering with companies like you may have seen Phytotech as an example. We can
Yeah.
talk about Phytotech or even Hydro International, our latest acquisition that we made to bring into our Oldcastle infrastructure products
Hmm.
group portfolio. So it's about end-to-end solutions on water. It's a challenge, yes, but it's also an opportunity for growth and revenue.
Hmm. Now, Phytotech, if I remember correctly, is focused on leak detection, right?
Yes,
They
that's
help. Yeah.
correct.
So, what kind of work are you doing? What actually, I'm curious. Like, are these new revenue opportunities? Like,
Yes, these are new revenue
uh huh.
opportunities. Absolutely. New revenue opportunities for circularity, new revenue opportunities for water management through the Phytotech partnership. And again, this is a demonstration project we're working on
Ah,
too,
okay.
right? With Phyto.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's a Phyto with Oldcastle as well as Microsoft and a few other partners. And we're focused there on about 350 kilometers of pipe that we're going to be running a 10-year project for leak detection, right? So it's a 10-year project because you need to prove the concepts and also be able to provide real-time recommendations and demonstrate to other cities. And this is going to be done in Arizona, actually, that project. So, there's revenue opportunities across the board as we address our own ambition of net zero by 2050, but also supporting the value chain to address lower carbon solutions, more circular, and water management.
How are you funding innovation related to this?
Yeah, so that's a very good question, Heather. And, innovation is central to our strategy within CRH. We have two arms of innovation. So we have our current laboratories and centers of expertise that's within our it's within our we call it ICSC. So that's basically our innovation center for sustainable constructions. That's where all of our experts come together to benchmark, leverage, and then they partner with our CRH Ventures Group. So our Ventures Group, we have a $250 million fund that the Ventures Group is managing in order for us to access startups, new ventures, new technologies that when we look at our end-to-end solution strategy across the areas in which I've mentioned earlier, how can we accelerate through accessing these new capabilities? So just recently, last week is recent, we held a Rose of the Future event at the University of Texas, Austin, with a number of partners. And this was all about reimagining, reinventing roads of the future. What are the technologies for the future? And at the end of that, there's 8 finalists that we're really looking forward to seeing what comes next. And then, last year we had a water accelerator launch as well, and that was sponsored by the CRH Ventures. And so it leads to innovation, it leads to investment in startup companies, and new opportunities that we can bring into the fold for new innovations.
Mm-hmm. So we have a couple of audience questions, one of which kind of
Okay.
relates to what you were just talking about, and it has to do with new permeable biomaterials for roads and
Yes.
highways. Can the construction industry develop these? What do you see happening there? With specifically, and it kind of ties back to the focus on water.
Yes.
We know that we need to recharge groundwater levels. So how
Yes.
do what you're working on? How does your innovation help enable that
Yeah,
and
that's a
scope?
very good question. And, when we look at the technologies we have today, there are solutions today to address permeable solutions that assist with groundwater recharge. However, the challenge, as you noted in your question, is to transition traditional materials to bio-based. And so that's where some of our partnerships come into play in order for us to access whether it is biobitumen, whether it is cement replacements, as well as other secondary materials that we can, through chemistry and material science, can turn these into products that perform as the traditional products do today. So it's still in development, still in the works in terms of whether the bio-based solutions and options will perform it the same way. But recharging groundwater is absolutely vital for us to ensure that that precious natural resource is available for all.
Got it. Another one, different topic. How do you tackle use of sold products and end of life related emissions?
Right. So that's a very good question. And so we're currently in the process of taking a relook at end of life of our products, as well as additional components of scope 3 for us as well. So I would say there's more yet to come in terms of how we're going to be addressing that in the future. Today, there are parts of our business that addresses construction demolition waste as an example, and brings that waste back into an aggregate form in order for us to utilize that into new construction projects in the future. But to specifically to that question, there's more work to be done as we
Mm-hmm.
address end of life.
Got it. What has been the response to your sustainability efforts from industry groups and competitors?
So the response, well, the response, I would say, has been very, very supportive of CRH's investment, strategy, and attention. And I would bring it back to the ratings agency. So we're very proud that for a lot of years, actually since 2014, we have maintained a AAA rating with MSCI. Recently, we were awarded an A for climate from CDP. So I would say that in terms of ratings agencies, and there's more, Sustainalytics, Dow Jones Sustainability Index, we are very proud of the external recognition that we receive from the rating agencies, because sustainability is embedded in our business, is embedded in our strategy, and it's really central to our purpose as we focus on reinventing the way our world is built. And we have to do that all together. And that's our purpose as a company. So, from a competitor perspective, as I mentioned earlier in my comments, it's important that there are places that we peer to peer engage, right, at trade associations, to make sure that as we are addressing what's coming down from a regulatory perspective, that there are some standards, right? In which how we are all, measuring how we're tracking our CO2, water, you name it, that it is a common way of tracking. But I would just say that we're very proud, and our employees are very proud of the performance that we've had, the commitment and the steadfast commitment that we have in our company on sustainability.
Feel free to put more questions in from the audience. I'm going to follow up on this one a little bit more
Okay.
because there aren't any right now. So, construction isn't exactly known as the most environmentally focused business,
Hmm.
industry.
Yep.
How is this playing with your investors? I mean, like, is this like, do you see yourself, your company really trying to differentiate through this strategy from a revenue and business standpoint? How does that play?
Yeah, there is definitely a differentiation opportunity for us at CRH. As I mentioned earlier, we have the essential materials, so aggregates and cement, but we're more than that as our company. And so our integrated approach that enables us to differentiate ourselves as we're tackling issues like lower carbon solutions or circularity, or even at the intersection of that for many of our customers and value chains, is proving to be very valuable, and our investors recognize that. They recognize that we have a water management solutions business that is really a solid business that is poised for nothing but more growth, more investment as we are addressing the challenges around stormwater, floodwater management, as the world gets warmer, and we have climate change events. I think this year, hearing the word atmospheric river, I'd never heard that before, right? But the fact that our infrastructure solutions business can bring solutions to the state of California to address that, those types of events, and to make sure that we have the right water quality access, and it's in the right place that it needs to be, is exactly what our water business does. So I believe that CRH has end-to-end capability. Innovation is at the heart of it, solutions at the heart of it, our customer, and coming in partnership with our customer to understand their pain points, and for us to be that essential partner as they're addressing their challenges, whether it's a city or a company, is what sets
Mhm.
CRH apart.
So, what's the primary driver for your sustainability efforts? Is it like regulatory stuff? You have sustainability revenue goals, investors, customers? Like, what's the driver?
Well, you know what, Heather, it's really all of those, right? The regulatory side is addressing, as we all move from voluntary reporting to mandatory reporting, right? So we've got that element of the regulatory. We also have the regulatory side, particularly in Europe, right? That's mandating certain operational expectations around circular economy, or biodiversity management or nature-based solutions, as well as a certain level of lower carbon or CO2 to be reduced in new applications, right? So there is a regulatory aspect in certain parts of the world, but I would say that the main driver is that we have solutions that the market needs around circularity, as well as water and lower carbon solutions. And so each geography, we've got to manage them a little bit differently because the regulatory drivers won't be the same. But at the end of the day, our customers are asking for CRH to demonstrate its leadership, and we are doing so through our people and our solutions and our services.
Great. I have one final audience question for you before we wrap
Okay.
up. And I just had to search on some terms, so that's why you saw me reaching
Oh,
for the
some
screen
terms,
here.
okay.
It really had to do with uh, substitutions, right? And so you keep mentioning low carbon materials, low carbon concrete, cement.
Sure.
This person wants to know: are you performing any pilots with high SCM concrete? Is LC3 cement in your future? So some these are some of the the carbon sequestering types of materials,
Yes, so calcine
and
clay or
yeah,
pozzolans or
exactly. You got it.
exactly,
Yep.
yes. So absolutely, when I talk about clinker and reduction and of CO2, that's the clinker substitution is the biggest part of our CO2 action and strategy and areas of investment that we're addressing. And so definitely SCMs is a critical part of that strategy. And we're addressing that from a strategic perspective and an investment perspective. So there's more to come on that, but absolutely that is a part of the solution as we move
Hmm.
forward.
How do you handle the like variation in quality or quantity of inputs? Like, so is that part of the equation that you're talking about? Like, you have to look at how much is being added and what the performance.
Absolutely. And so that's where we go back to innovation. And
Hmm.
I mentioned our Innovation Center for Sustainable Construction, right?
Yeah.
They have over 400 projects, right, that they're dealing with. And so from across one ocean to the other, understanding those, that's kind of like a quality question, right? What are the quality parameters? How do we need to adjust this quality parameter for that new product coming in? That is what they're charged to do as we think about and as we invent and drive next generation innovation for lower carbon products for the market. So that is their charge, and they are ripe and ready for the challenge and doing a lot of great work.
All right, speed round to wrap up here.
Okay.
Who who is on your recurring meeting list and why?
On my recurring meeting list is my chief operating officer, of course, many of our leaders in the C suite. I meet periodically with fellow chief sustainability officers. We have an opportunity to commiserate and to benchmark and to talk about, future disclosure. Other individuals that are on my meeting list, so of course, our board of directors, so the Safety, Environment, and Social Responsibility Committee is frequently on my list. And then within the company, I meet frequently with our business presidents, as well as key leaders that have responsibility for CRH Ventures, responsibility for our innovation center, purchasing, so procurement, and also legal, right?
Okay.
And
Yeah.
HR. so, it's all
Everyone.
about that cross-functional partnership, right, to achieve the
Okay.
outcome.
Okay. Who do you seek out for reality check on a new idea?
You know what? The best reality checks are from our early career employees, right?
Hmm.
Periodically throughout the year, I'll have an opportunity to have some concentrated time with early career employees, which means that they're, 5 years or less in the company, maybe a max 10 years in the company. And then also many of our future leaders. So we have a leadership program for those that are up and coming that we're watching to possibly be in senior leadership roles within the company and C suite. And so they are going to be our leaders in 2040, in 2050, right? So it's no better gut check than to engage with those up and coming leaders. And then those that are new to CRH, are trying to understand, are we really serious about sustainability? Are we really serious about innovation and capital investment? What does that look like? And we've also established a sustainability ambassador network after our inaugural sustainability summit that I hosted last month. And that network of leaders, they're sustainability leaders within the businesses. So, you get it from the ground floor. Absolutely.
Okay, one last quick one. What would
Okay.
you have done differently if you could start over?
Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. I wouldn't have done anything different. And so when I think about that, Heather, I take myself back to when I first came into corporate America, a young engineer, excited about the promise of marrying engineering and chemistry and innovation and growing business. I had, rose colored glasses, right? But I would just say those rose colored glasses really blossomed into a career that I have thoroughly enjoyed. Had the opportunity to work with great people in Dow and working with some fantastic and great people here in CRH. Learning this market is a lot, right? It's a lot that I'm continuing to learn, develop, and grow in the building and construction materials market. And but it's great people. And I've always been the one, and you've known me, Heather, for probably about 10 or 11 years. We're going to date ourselves for a moment here. But for me, it's always been about the people I meet, I get a chance to work with. And when I have the chance to mentor others, is from the lens that I have enjoyed the journey that I've been on. And so I wouldn't change a thing.
Well, Eunice, thank you so much. I really appreciate you joining us today. I hope you have a great rest of the week.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Heather. And for the GreenBiz family out there, it's great to be back with the GreenBiz community. And I want to wish all of you a wonderful rest of June, Pride Month, and celebrating as well Juneteenth next week as well. And I'm proud to have gone from one company in Dow that's been very focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion to another company, another multinational, CRH, that's also focused on diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And we need everyone to bring themselves to work, their whole selves to work, in order for us to address these wonderful opportunities. But they're based upon challenges, right? So changing challenges to opportunities for all. Thank you so much, Heather.
Thank you, Eunice. Thank you also for attending live, or if you catch the archived version, I appreciate that too. And watch for July 17th, and when I will be interviewing Nan Ramsehoff. She is the director of Stripe Climate and also the Frontier Carbon Removal Initiative. Thank you so much. Take care and be well.